It had been a quiet day. Orbie discovered that if you try to carry a jar of water when it's too full, it will trickle down your hands. Katie found out that if you don't keep your finger out of the lens when you take a picture, not much else will show up. And they both learned that if one person wears roller skates, the other can be taken for a ride. Dad was curled up in a lawn chair reading a good book. Mom was drawing the back of the house on a sketch pad. And Orbie was trying to see how much water would spill out of a full jar when he put marbles in it. Mom thought this was a very clever experiment. Dad just, It was a really good book. Katie stood and watched. She wondered if anybody noticed that she wasn't doing anything. Nobody did. Katie walked over and talked to Chance, who was a little more interested in what a leaf was doing in the wind than conversation. Katie looked back at her family. Still, nobody noticed that she had nothing to do. Now, on other days, Katie would have easily found something fun. But today, Katie felt like playing with somebody. She had an idea and ran inside. In a moment, she came out with her kite. She asked Dad if he would play with her, but it was a really good book. Dad told Katie maybe later. Katie sighed and moved over to Mom. Mom's drawing was only partly finished, and she was afraid that if she left to fly the kite, her position would change and the drawing wouldn't look right. Mom told Katie to ask Orbie. Orbie had already put in 10 marbles. When he plopped one more in, water spilled out. Katie thought it looked boring, but I have to tell you that Orbie was having fun. When Katie asked Orbie, he looked at the kite. He loved to play with it, and you really did need 2 people, but Orbie burbled to Katie. He wanted to finish what he was doing first. Katie eyed Chance, but there was no way that she was going to be of any help. Katie went back inside. Soon she came back out with a jar of soap and a bubble stick. She sat on the step and made some bubbles. She called to everyone to look at the huge one she'd blown, but when she checked, nobody had looked up. Orbie would have, but he had just dropped the 14th marble in the water. Dad would have, but he was at a really good part in his book. He just couldn't take his eyes off of it. Mom would have too, but right at that moment she was drawing Chance on the windowsill and wanted to catch her before it was too late. Katie sighed. Then Katie had another idea. She went all the way up to her room, pulled out her dress-up box. She would dress up as a visitor, and then everybody would talk to her. She put on a long dress and a huge hat, and she wore high-heeled shoes that clunked along behind her, and she carried a great big purse. Katie looked at herself in the mirror. She certainly looked like a visitor. When she came out the back door, I hate to tell you, but it's true, nobody looked up again. Mom was working on a brush that was very complicated. Dad had curled up in another position and was chewing on his thumb. Orbie had the jar half full, and so was the dish underneath it. He dropped another marble in. Katie said, ahem, to give them all a chance to notice her. Mom said, hi, honey, but she didn't look. Dad said, uh-huh, but he never took his eyes off the page. Orbie didn't even notice. Katie was beginning to think that she was invisible. Katie went over to talk with Chance. Maybe Chance would like a visitor, but Chance hurried off around the corner of the house. Katie went around the corner of the house, too. She couldn't find Chance anywhere. Katie sat on the front step. She pulled her long dress up around her knees. Nobody had even looked to see how nice her costume was. Nobody even knew that she was wearing a huge hat. Katie leaned against the pillar. She felt left out and sad. She wondered if maybe she was invisible. Nobody had noticed her. Katie really wanted someone to play with her. Even all her friends were busy that day. It didn't seem fair. Well, it wasn't long after that Dad slammed his book shut. It made Mom jump. He said it had been one of the best books he'd ever read. Mom was all finished a drawing, and Dad said it looked exactly like a hippopotamus. Mom asked him to be serious, which was always hard for Dad. He put his arms around Mom's neck and told her it was beautiful. Orbie couldn't fit any more marbles in the jar, and the dish was almost full. Dad called him Archimedes. And that's when everyone noticed that Katie wasn't there. Mom looked inside. Dad looked down the street, and Orbie looked behind the bushes. There was no Katie. When Dad turned to the house, he saw someone special sitting on the steps. The reason Katie hadn't answered was that she had fallen asleep. She looked so cute to Dad that he made Mom tiptoe out to see. Maybe they had been involved in their own things too long. They felt bad. Even Orbie. So while Katie slept and dreamt that she was the surprise guest at the Queen's birthday party, Mom, Dad, and Orbie set out to make a surprise for her. Dad made her favorite supper. Mom brought her card game out into the backyard, and Orbie built her a train out of empty boxes. Later that afternoon, Katie woke up. She was all alone on the front step, and she still felt sad. No one had even noticed that she was gone. Maybe they didn't love her anymore. Slowly, she got up and dragged herself around to the back of the house. Everyone was waiting for her. Katie was very surprised and happy. Nobody thought she was invisible. Everybody loved her. And I want you to remember that at your house. When everybody is too busy to spend time with you, it doesn't mean they don't love you, because I happen to know that they love you very much.